So this is building MCP services. This is a training that I've been working on that we're giving to some of our clients. I'm going to rifle through it. Normally it takes a couple hours, but we're going to get it done in like 20, 25 minutes. See how fast I can type. The agenda is we're going to talk a little bit about MCP. Who's familiar with MCP broadly here? So I can rifle through that part. Who's used MCP through like an agent? Okay, so I can just show that maybe real quick. I'm going to go through those parts just to give a context for MCP. Then I'm going to build a little standard IO MCP service. I'm going to build something really like I'm going to build a little countdown timer, and then we're going to learn how to debug MCP services. We're going to build HTTP service. There's different transports. There's the standard IO transport, and there's also an HTTP transport. You can build MCP services two different ways. We're going to build them both. Then I'm going to show how to make those services so they can stream results back, give updates on their progress. Then I'm going to show how you can take an MCP service that just works for one client, but make it now support multiple clients at once. We're going to do all this in Node. I'm going to talk a little bit about validation, and then I'm going to finally talk through authentication authorization and what's supported there. Most people are familiar with MCP. Basically, it's a way agents can talk to other systems. That's all really it is. It's a specification for that Anthropic made. As I said, it has two different transport mechanisms that we'll look at both of them. It supports a variety of different ways of tools interacting with, or systems interacting with AI agents. Tools, which is what we're only going to look at that one today, but there's also resources, prompts, and sample hooks. Has anybody done like sample hook, like hooks, built that? It's kind of the inverse of a tool. It allows your systems to ask the AI agent that's connected to them to do work on the system's behalf. I've learned about it through preparation of this training, but I've not come up with a great use case yet. And I would love it if anybody does have one someday, like, oh yeah, I'm using it for this, please let me know. And then MCP supports a variety of different authorization schemes. One is built into the spec, which is OAuth 2.1. We're going to talk about what that looks like, but you can also bring your own authorization scheme. And if there's time, I'll kind of rifle through that. Yeah, let's get coding. I'm going to build this. If people want to go through this themselves, this GitHub/Bitovi MCP training, the whole training is built in there. I've been developing it. You can kind of go through it step by step yourself, get everything working. Uses code spaces. I don't know if people have used that, so can make it easy. So if you're not familiar with getting your system set up, you can do it through that a little bit more easily. So I have this basic starting project. It's Node. I've already kind of set up my environment, got Node installed, VS Code. You'd have to do all that. There's instructions in here how to do that. The first thing that I want to do is just quickly show like how to connect to a MCP service. There's a variety of different ways you can configure it. If you're configuring it for a project, I have this VS Code MCP JSON. I'm going to show everything for VS Code here. If you're using like Claude, there's different approaches, but they're all analogous. And I'm just going to connect to GitHub here. Let's start that GitHub server. So you can configure this file with the URL and your what type of MCP service you want to connect to. I'm going to connect to GitHub's. Now, what this will do is it'll have you log in, but I've already logged in, so it's not having me authenticate. I'm already there. And then I'm going to open up the window, start a new, I don't know what changes I made. Oh, yeah, and undo and continue. I'm afraid of what changes. Live coding, right? Exciting. So I can ask it, I want to create a GitHub issue, right? So through this agent, I don't want to do it manually. I want to do it the new, cool, exciting way, have my agent do it for me. So I can put in this text, create a new issue in this repository with this title. And I'm going to just give my name and the body here. Let's see if it works, right? This will be a good. Why don't you have access? Okay, hold on. Let me check my tools. Is GitHub enabled? No, it's not. So you can't, one thing you'll need to learn is you can only have a certain amount of tools enabled in VS Code. So you kind of got to manage which tools you want to use. I've selected GitHub with its like giant list of tools. I'm going to do OK. I'm going to go back and try to make this run one more time. Lies. You do have it. All right. It's got GitHub. Maybe it's getting confused. So sometimes it's best to just start a new prompt or new, okay, there we go. All right. So this is the AI agent recognizing that there's a tool available to do this. It's going to prompt me and ask like, I'm about to make a request like this. Are you cool with that? I'm going to allow it. It ran and created that issue. Gives me a little link here. See, the issue is created and I'm going to close it. Cool. So that's using MCP. Sounds like a lot of people here have used it. For those who haven't, that's how you do it. All right, so now let's start building our MCP service. I'm just gonna share a little bit of the training material. MCP, all it really is back and forth with JSON objects. That's just sending. Hey, you wanna see all the tools? You wanna send a server or a process on your computer a list of you want to get its list of tools? Well, send a message like this, and then that system, whether HTTP or standard IO, will send back a response with the tools listed. And then you want to call a tool. We're going to build this Slugify thing that builds like slugs for an e-commerce experience. Here's how you would call it, and here's the response. So this is all that's really going on under the hood. We're going to use a package to like a helper library, a bunch of helper libraries to make this easier. So we can just kind of define our tools, wire it up to different transports, HTTP or standard IO, and it will just do the handshake and everything for us. So let's see what that looks like. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually define our tools. This is where we're going to define our tool, like our collection of tools and our server. We need this MCP server. There is this model context protocol. This is actually so nice. I don't know if other places have done this. The folks defining the spec created SDKs for their spec. Oh, so nice, right? Like it means it works and it means it matches the spec. I love that. I've never had that before. I'm sure it's happened, but it's really cool. So that's where we can build the MCP server, and we're going to use another library called Zod that can do validation, that they kind of work together very well. We need to do a few things. So here I already have this function called slug, right? Create slug. This is just takes a string and then replaces it with hyphens more or less, and takes care of emojis and other content like that. We want to call that function. To do that, we first need to create an MCP server. Done. It's this new MCP server. All right, great start. And then we're going to register that Slugify tool. So I'm going to paste that code in next. And that looks like this. You register the tool, you give the tool name, you give it a description. Really important to give, this is how the AI identifies what your tool can do. So your description is really important. I've actually seen some people who will if you're building this production, you really want to make sure that like you're providing the smallest possible description because you don't want to fill up context, that a lot of your use cases, like when an agent can understand like this person's asking this, it can map that, and agents are smart enough to map it to like this tool. So I've seen things where they'll have like 100 prompts that they all want to map to this, and then they'll like fire up Claude Code SDK and see if it like calls that MCP service correctly, right? That's how you can test if you're building production scale MCP services. That's a way you can verify that like as long as people are calling it like this, it will choose that tool. Anybody used Playwright's MCP service? A few hands here. Like, doesn't it load like, I think it loads like I forgot the number of tokens though. It's like 10,000 tokens or something like that. That's because they're just blowing up they're very long, big descriptions. And so that's what I'm saying. You want to write good descriptions here that aren't too long, but like an agent will understand what needs to happen. So I'm describing what it does, describing the input and what they need to look like. And then I provided a function that takes the arguments, does whatever I want. In this case, creates a slug and returns that. And I've got to return this in the right way to match the JSON RPC spec for MCP services. So I return content, in this case, it's text, and I'm returning that text back to the AI that it can do what it wants with. Again, you can do whatever, once you're in here, you can do whatever you want. You want to like process files, like create images, you can send images back. You can really do whatever you want. My goal for this talk and presentation is just show people like the infrastructure you need to build around these functions, not what you can do necessarily inside them. Okay, so once we have that, we need to connect it. This is just like a JavaScript construct. We need to connect it to some type of transport mechanism, some way that the AI can like talk to it. And we're going to do that here with the standard IO at first. And this is I think the best way if you're just like, man, I want my agent to be able to do something real quick. This is the easiest way to make that possible. And then later, if you're like, I want to share this with other people, then you might start building an HTTP server. So what that looks like is we're gonna that MCP SDK supports different transports, which is really nice. We need to create one of those transports. We need to then connect our server, which I just really need to connect that server, and then we need to, that's all we really need to do. I'm gonna log. It's nice to log that like it's actually working. Now, if you're, it's kind of, isn't it weird that I'm like logging through error? You got to remember this standard IO server communicates through standard in and standard out. So if I do like a normal console log, like it's going to mess up the communication between the agent and the MCP service. So you start logging with console error. Later, we'll see other ways to log. You can log messages back to the agent that the agent can read. I don't know. I think Warren, doesn't that go through normal standard out in Node? I think it does. So I think that might mess things up as well. We'll see later like another way of doing it, but I don't want to like and well, you can't even do it in here. Inside MCP, you can log things back to the agent. We'll see how to do that, but you're kind of stuck with now fingers crossed again. It's very exciting and nervous. If I did it all right, here we go. I'm going to click start here. And it ran. Cool. Now you can also click the show output here if you want to see. I discovered one tool because that's the number of tools we have. Probably means it's working. So let me grab my agent here and I want to say, hey, make a slug for I can't believe it worked first try. All right, it's calling it. It identified our tool and failed. Why? What is the error here? It could not be started. Error. Oh, it's trying to connect to this one. Hold on. Let me delete that. I had that in there. It shouldn't be in there. Okay, let me restart that. You can see here it's trying to connect to the HTTP version. Let me start it again. I don't know, let's start a new context. See? There we go. Yeah, sure, I should have changed it. All right, here we go. It's still doing the HTTP one. Oh, you know what? This is again, I have to manage my services. Okay. Normally this wouldn't be as big of a problem, but because I'm like creating HTTP ones and they have the exact same names, it's going to get confused. That's good. Yep. Yep. Thank you. Third time. Okay, sorry. There it is, standard IO. Okay, yeah, got it right. Third try. So we got a very basic MCP capability, right? You could have that do whatever you wanted on your like local file system, create your own tools, share them with your friends, get popular. That's the way people do it. The next thing we want to do here is I want to show a little bit of debugging. There is a tool called MCP Inspector, and you can see I've written it up there. I'm going to run it up there. You can see what I'm about to type, and I'll show you what it does. Okay, this will launch a app that is connected to my MCP service, making it very convenient to debug. And yeah, it should just work, right? Okay, cool. So here you can see the tools that are available. So and you can see the handshake it's doing. First thing when an MCP client, like an agent, tries to connect to an MCP service, it does this initialize, gets information back from the server. Then you needs to request the tools, and our service is returning those tools and what they look like. And then this allows you to click those tools, write stuff in based on the parameters the tool supports, run them, and see the result, see that it's actually working. And you can kind of trace through like what's going wrong, see all your messages. Very, very convenient tool. GitHub's authentication is not full OAuth 2.1 PKCE compliant. So it will be like, I don't know how to log into it. Now, if you go capture your own auth token and put it in there's like when you switch to streamable HTTP, you can specify your own bearer token, stuff like that, and you can like hack it to work. But if you use this for something like Atlassian's that is properly OAuth 2 compliant, it will connect just fine. That's a good way of investigating other services if you want to like learn from them and see what they're doing. Saw a little bit to debug. I'm not going to go too much more detail there. Let's move on to getting a HTTP version of this working. And I've got this HTTP server here. It's just boilerplate Express right now. I need to do something kind of similar to what we did for the standard IO. I'm going to create a transport, connect an HTTP transport, connect to that. But then I've got to wire up my MCP endpoint to handle, basically channel that to the transport. So I'm going to show what this looks like. Okay, so let's see what each of these looks like. Oh, forgot to uncomment. Okay. So call that, creates your server transport. We're not going to worry about sessions yet. Later, we'll see how to handle multi-session HTTP services. But as we're learning, let's just deal much easier to understand the flow for supporting just a single session. Now we've connected our MCP server to the transport, but what we need to do is tell our transport like how to handle an MCP request. So you essentially what this is doing is taking the MCP post data and forwarding it along to the transport, which we'll take that and talk to the MCP server. To be kind of do things the right way here, because this can throw errors, you'll generally do this kind of like try catch around it. Right. Now, post is what's used to establish a connection, but MCP is really a two-way connection. So it's sending messages through post, but it can pull back messages through get. And then it can delete the session, like end the session through delete. So delete and actually all of these could be just use this as single handle session right now. We'll see later that we've got to like post when we're making it support multiple sessions, we've got to do some special stuff there. But all we're really doing here is trying to call handle request, more or less, when any method hits our MCP URL. And it'll make more sense why I'm doing the same thing two different places a little bit later. Special code has to go here. Okay, so we're channeling it down, and that is really, I think, all we need to do. Let me check my list here. Yes. Okay. So with that, we did it right. We did it right. We should be able to connect to that. So if I go back to my MCP, I'm just going to now I have this HTTP version. I'm going to delete this other one to try to keep myself from making the same mistake a few times here. Now this one, I've got to start my server up. Well, it's kind of down for everybody, but it's npm run dev HTTP. This just starts the service on a port, and this is configured to talk to it. So if I click start, all right, connected, got its one tool. Let me make sure this is configured to talk to it right. Where is the one tool? All right, I'm going to do the next step, and then hopefully it'll have got its act together by this time. What is going on here? Stop. Okay, we'll see what's going on there in a second. I want to keep moving along here. Okay. Theoretically, we have an HTTP server running that does the exact same thing. Now we want to make it, I want to show what it looks like to make it streaming results, and we'll definitely want to get it working for this part. Really, when I say streaming, all I mean is we're able to give notifications on what's going on back to the agent. And the code for that is you can send other RPC messages as you're processing the final content. So we can change our MCP server here. And I'm going to add a new tool that does that countdown. Okay, copy that over, and I'll go through what it does. Okay. So here's the countdown server, or countdown tool. Just you give it a number of seconds, and it just loops through, and it's going to log messages every second. So these are the kind of notifications that you can see and use to debug, right? Because you don't want to write out to console. I mean, you can write out a console to log for a server, but it's nice when you're on the client to give people information about like what's going on inside there. And then also there's a special progress notification, and we'll see that like VS Code will actually show that to the user. You can actually see both of these messages. I'll show how. It's just you see them in different places. I'm setting these notifications, and at the very end, I'm like going to say the blast off. So let's see if VS Code, I might actually just like restart it real quick just to, because I feel like I've confused it enough. Check it. Oh, I got to restart my server because I made those changes. Okay, it sees it there. Let me just restart the connection. Okay, see now it shows two tools. It's going to know about it. And then we do create a countdown for 10 seconds. Let's see, calling it. And one thing you'll notice, oh boy, seems like oh, I forgot one step. Second try again. The step is you need to tell what capabilities you have. So that was that error like, oh, the server doesn't have these capabilities. When you define a server, you need to define what capabilities it has. So that's how you do it. Now this tools is on by default. Now we're saying we support logging as well. So let me restart my server, restart the connection, and try this again. I'm going to do it in a new prompt. Let's see if it works. Yeah, see this 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds remaining. And also you can view the logs in here. This is where that one form of logging shows up down here. And then that other form of your progress shows up here. And then you can see the output was blast off. So this can create a really nice user experience. It's really boggled my mind that there is no streaming response that MCP can provide. So the stuff itself can't be streaming. It's just one big payload at the very. Okay, so the next thing, we only have two and a half more steps to go. Let's look at how you need to change the server to actually support reconnections. I have a script in here that if you were to run on this server, like it would have 3 agents connecting simultaneously, like they all just start getting each other's messages and it like barfs, right? Does not work. That's because every time a post is coming on, they're just going to reuse that exact same transport we already created. So we need to change that. One of the challenges of making a good MCP service is you need to handle the sessions, right? And that's what we're going to do is you've got to kind of manage the session ID and mapping that to the right transport. And you've got to manage those all in memory. And anybody who's built systems like is going to know the complexity that carries with it. To save a little time here, I'm just going to kind of grab it, and we're going to talk through the changes I had to make. The changes you have to make. So here I'm managing transports. I'm going to map a session ID to which transport I'm saving in memory. Now, this would only work for like if you just got one node container deployed. If you're going to like scale that out, you're going to have like sticky sessions sitting over all of this to route, new session to the right container every time. Fortunately, the library manages, you'll see it has a callback for when the session is destroyed. And so the memory management isn't like you don't have to worry too much about like crazy leaks, just sessions growing and growing and growing forever, but for people who aren't using them. So I'm managing, and now my post endpoint, which is establishing a session, it's going to check if I have a session for that session ID, I'm going to reuse it. And then I'm going to just wire it up to handle that request. If I don't have it, then I'm going to create a new session, a new transport with a unique ID. And when it's established, I'm going to save that, right? In this case, just saving it in memory. So you would have to make sure that like you put limits on how many transports are being created because you can fill up node's memory, right? You'd have to add more protection around this in a real production scenario. When the session is closed, there's a hook. I need to delete that to save memory. And then I create a server. So every session in this case gets its own instance of MCP server and its own transport wired together and then saved in memory. So when there's a reconnection, they'll get back that same like MCP server construct. And then I just changed the get and delete to do more or less the exact same thing. Look up if there's a session. If there's not a session, like just throw an error. Otherwise, find the right session essentially and handle the request there. Makes sense, hopefully enough. Okay, so with that, well, the behavior is the exact same. I could run the script and it would show having 3 simultaneous clients like all work perfectly. But we could take my word for it because I'm running a little low on time here. So the last 2 things I want to show are just talk a little bit more about validation. I talked about Zod a little bit, but the only other thing I really wanted to show about Zod was, let me just steal it. So here I'm just adding another parameter. You can mark parameters as optional, and the MCP service, when it gets called like the wrong way or with you really want to be descriptive with your validation with Zod as much as you can, and it will return these errors. It will just tell the AI like, hey, it must be greater than 0. You can't put -1, or it must be a whole number, and then the AI agent can work with the user to get the right value. So it's really good to do that up here. You can also throw just normal JavaScript errors, but you want to do that like where you might have thrown an error before, like MCP dash, like, timing dash over 15 or something, like an error like that. With MCP, you want to throw human readable errors because that's what the agent will use to like work with the human, presumably, to figure out what actually needs to be called. Okay, one final thing that I want to talk about is authorization and authentication. So anybody know PKCE here or OAuth 2? Like one sad hand in the back. Thank you. Yeah, so someone has had to deal with that auth mechanics. So a lot of MCP services, you just have to pass it some like PAT token, but at like Atlassian's MCP service, if I try to connect to Atlassian, it's going to redirect me to Atlassian, like allow me to log in, and then give that authorization to the AI agent that I can then use to talk. And that's like the cool way of making these things work, right? You don't want people to have to like go download a PAT token and put it in or like all that stuff. You just want them to click a button and say connect, right? And that's what we're going to do for our MCP service. The problem is there is like a lot of exchanges that have to happen for a PKCE authorization flow to really work. I've implemented them all in this example app, and there's this like diagram showing where every function is called and like how it works. If you're curious about that stuff, go look it up. But to implement it, thankfully, I made it like you just add one function and then it implements all of this to our existing MCP service. And I want to show what the experience looks like. So let me get that going. We're just going to change our MCP server, or not, sorry, our HTTP server a little tiny bit. All we've done two things. We've added this www authenticate header for cores, right? You need cores working, but when someone tries to connect to an MCP service, and if you say you don't have the authority to, you provide a little www authenticate header with the URL where they need to go authenticate. So you need to make sure that's available. And then what this does is just like calls add OAuth to app. What that function does, high level, basically just goes and implements all the OAuth functions. And you can, like I said, you can look up yourself like how those all work and the details. There's a lot of details. So if this is working right now, again, fingers crossed. Let me try to save all my, I don't know what I got else here. I should be able to restart my server. And if I did it right, oh, it noticed it without me even having it like notice the change. So this is saying, this is what the experience would be like if you connected to Jira's MCP service. Oh, you're trying to connect to this? Do you want to authenticate? I'm going to allow. It'll open up like the login page. This is my, very briefly made. Do I want to allow the demo app to connect? I do. And then it'll give that authorization rights back to the agent. And then you just use the agent as normal. Right? And count down to 5 with a birthday message. Let's see if that works. Got to miss the birthday part. And I missed that part. What is going on? All right. I'm so close. So close. Okay. That should work. I'd probably take me a few minutes to debug what the heck went wrong. But that's basically the presentation. The last bit here, this OAuth part, I really think that's kind of hopefully the future of MCP services is that they all support PKCE because it'll make a really nice user experience for like normal people. You want to use ChatGPT to connect to like some MCP service, you put in the URL, ChatGPT like logs you in over there, authorizes it, and then you're immediately connected. So I think it's a really good way of making your MCP services usable by like non-nerds. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yes, perfect. Okay, so I'm starting this off with a golden rule because I think this should be said first before anything. Let's just not run arbitrary code, right? So in general, when talking about WASM and why we want to be using it and why it's kind of cool, there are a few different things to think about. I think for a lot of people, the interesting thing is this idea that you can go and have this nice sandbox and be able to compile to any type of target, to this kind of portable target, which is really cool. But I'm going to be showing you a few different things that's kind of going to be in this whole space of arbitrary code running and how to make that a little bit safer and all that stuff. But in general, good rule of thumb for life and software, if you have the option to not run arbitrary code, don't do it, right? So who am I? We can do that at the end. First, everyone, I need y'all to go here, right? So if you have your phone or if you have your laptop, you can go to demo.robertismo.com. Just go there. And let me see some thumbs up. It will. This will be running arbitrary code. So just know that. Just know that. Be ready for it. So let me see a thumbs up if you've got it. Let me see a thumbs up if you got it. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So you should see something that looks a little like this. Yep. Just an empty screen with a home, a manage, and a marketplace at the top. There we go. So this is where we're going to be starting off with. It's going to be a kind of semi-live, semi-presentation thing, and y'all can go and kind of play around with that while I'm talking. Just watch out for Mr. Malicious. He's got some crazy stuff there. I also wanted to show a few of the stuff that we're using today. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about is going to be based on some of the work that's done with like mscripting. So taking, let's say, C code, Rust, Zig, all this other stuff. Well, not Zig in this case, but all this other stuff, and actually compiling it to WASM. How many people know what WASM is? Actually, raise your hand if you do not know what WASM is. Let's see who doesn't know what WASM is. Perfect. Actually, here, let's go over WASM for a second. Because I know time is like an interesting thing here. But yeah, we can do this for a second. So we're going to go to WASM. There we go, WebAssembly. There we go. Okay, so WebAssembly is basically a target. It is a binary machine language for the browser. That is what it's primarily for. So if you use something like some advanced graphics stuff in Figma, Figma is, I think, the largest use case of WebAssembly that I know of. I think there are a few other places that are using WebAssembly, but that might be, I think, the most common use case there. But it's basically when you want something that's kind of a fad to use more of the native something closer to native when it comes to performance. You want safety in the browser, which is like one of the key things. The browser is a very safe environment, right? Something that's open, so you can run WebAssembly on any browser, right? So I'm on Safari, I can run it on Firefox, I can run it on Chrome, it doesn't matter. And it is a part of the web. So this is a standard, right? The other nice thing about WebAssembly is that, interestingly, it's kind of been pulled out of the web recently. So you can use something like WASI or something like that to actually run these WebAssembly binaries as though they were just like regular binaries you might see. So WebAssembly is really cool, right? It's just this way of taking, let's say, something that was written in, let's say, C, C++, Rust, and saying like, hey, I want to put this on the web. And how do you do that? Traditionally, you could not do that. So this is some interesting stuff here. So here, let's go. And so mscripting is kind of it's an LVM-based kind of compiler for WebAssembly. It kind of has the whole tool chain. So if you want to go from like C to a WebAssembly module, I'll kind of show you what that looks like. This is what you would use to get there. Here, let's see. So here, I will continue. Perfect. And the other one here is the QuickJS mscripting. So let's go over QuickJS. Who has heard of QuickJS here? QuickJS, yeah, oh, 1, 2, look at that, look at that. So QuickJS is a really cool project. So y'all are all probably familiar with V8, which is the primary JavaScript engine of most browsers. V8's a cool little Google project. It runs very, very fast JavaScript. QuickJS is kind of an alternative, very small, very lightweight JavaScript engine, right? So if you want to run JavaScript engine in, let's say, embedded devices or on the edge or something like that, you might use something like QuickJS. The nice thing about QuickJS is that it is, of course, a very simple type of project, right? Meaning that it's very easy to port QuickJS to WebAssembly, right? And so that's one of the cool things. If you saw the talk kind of title, it was running JavaScript in JavaScript. So what we can do is we can take QuickJS, this project here, right? Compile it into WebAssembly, take that WebAssembly module, give it to JavaScript, and now you can evaluate JavaScript inside of a little JavaScript environment in a safe way, as opposed to using traditional eval. But let's talk about traditional eval for a second. So native. So I'm using native code in a very interesting way here. What we're going to define as native is really going to be just regular JavaScript, right? So if we go to our little demo here, let's go to the marketplace, right? If you have it open, you can go to the marketplace and see we've got some apps here. Actually, I've got some installed, so let me uninstall. Let me uninstall this. Cool. Here, yeah. So we got some apps here, right? And so we've got some that are WASM, some that are quick, and we've got 2 that are native, right? And so what we're going to define as native is really, this is just going to be a module that we have here that is just going to run JavaScript code, just straight on the DOM, all of the unsafety that's built into that, right? So right here, we have a counter. So I have this little app where you can go, and if you have it open, you can go and install the counter with me, right? So if you've installed the counter, what you're going to get is you're going to get this mod that I'm kind of using the idea of like a mod, if you're familiar with that kind of terminology. Install this counter. You can go and configure it. So let's go and configure it and set the default value to like 30, right? And let's go to our home page, right? And we see we have a counter. Look at that. Boom. So we can click. It's doing something crazy. Look, it's a counter. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? So this is pretty cool. This is something that was made by me, right? So it was here. Let me go to this here. This is something that's made by me. So of course you can kind of assume that this is going to be pretty safe, pretty good, no issue here, right? But if we were to go and let's say demo.com, right? What if we give this native functionality to Mr. Malicious here? I don't know if anyone clicked on Mr. Malicious's thing yet. Oh, we got one guy over there. He saw. So if we go to Mr. Malicious over here and we install his nice message, add a nice message to all your pages. Let's see what and he got us. He got us, guys. There's so Mr. Malicious got us. Unfortunate, but luckily, you know, we have it here in this private window, so of course we're gonna just get rid of that, right? So we don't want to run Mr. Malicious's code because look what he does to us when we run his code, right? So one of the key issues, and here let's kind of go in and I can show what this is looking like. If I go to our marketplace and I go to, let's go to our counter, right? And I go to main.js, right? It's really simple, right? So here, let me increase the size. What we're doing is we are going to go and try to select our main. We're going to look for a button and we're going to look for a p tag. If the button and p tag are not there, let's go and create them with some certain styles, etc. And then we're going to add an event listener that's going to parse the current text and add one to it, right? So some really basic stuff here, and then we have this little toml to kind of configure what our app is going to be doing here. So we're going to have the name here, which is counter. We're going to say it's a native type, who's the author, just basic type of package stuff, right? But here, let's go and see what Mr. Malicious is working with here. Let's see, nice message. And so Mr. Malicious, just gonna go and just change our body and just, you know, completely get rid of it, right? So not good for us, not good for us. So what we want to do is we want to take Mr. Malicious and see what he's working with, and we want to kind of box this in, right? We don't want to really have Mr. Malicious running all of this code just randomly on our website. That's not really fun for us, right? So let's talk about jailing and sandboxing, right? So these are kind of two ideas you're going to hear about when kind of in this realm of kind of keeping code safe, right? Jailing is really going to be this concept of you're going to have an environment and you're going to try to allow as much as you can, but you're going to have some type of system that stops the environment from running, let's say, this unsafe code, right? So this might be like, hey, we're going to use how many of y'all are familiar with my favorite keyword in JavaScript, with? Does anyone know the with keyword? There it is. Yeah. So with keyword, it's a nice little deprecated JavaScript with keyword. Let's see. All right, so the with keyword, it's a nice little, yep, there it is, that nice big red deprecated, right? I think this is actually one of the only major features in JavaScript to ever be deprecated, right? But what with allowed you to do was basically hack the scope, right? And so what you would see in like old kind of safe eval systems is that they would take the window object, right? They would make their own little window object that had most of the window object's properties, right? They would then use with to then say that their custom object is going to be the scope at which your JavaScript code lives in, right? For a variety of reasons, with is not a good way of doing safe eval, right? And it's also a very janky solution, right? But with jailing, right, you're kind of doing this concept of, hey, we want to give you as much as we can, but we're going to stop these kind of unsafe things, right? Keep you kind of in your lane, basically. This is as opposed to what we are going to be doing today, which is going to be sandboxing, right? So this is going to be kind of a default deny type of policy where we are going to have this environment, we are going to spin this up, and basically in this environment, almost nothing can be done, right, by default, right? And so kind of going back to our original statement of don't run arbitrary code, if you have to run arbitrary code, the best thing to do is to sandbox that arbitrary code, right? We don't want to just give it free access to to as many kind of properties of our environment as possible. We want to limit that as much as we can, right? So if we can, we should be doing a default deny policy here, right? So let's try it out. So here, let's go back to our demo here. Let's go to here. So here I have a little WASM. We're going to go to our WASM code here. And this is dark mode. How many of y'all like dark mode? How many of y'all dark mode fans? Okay, we got a few dark mode fans out here. So, we had to add it in for you guys because, of course, that's what y'all are looking for. Now, the first thing you're going to see that's a little bit different from how we had before is this is actually going to ask for permissions. This is like a key thing when we're talking about any type of packages, libraries, like any of these kind of plug-in type of system mods, packages, anything like this. This concept of being able to explicitly give consent of the permissions and access to these systems is like, I think, a very default concept, right? We shouldn't just say like install a package and then that package can just go and, has permissions to as much as it wants, right? We want to be able to actually show the user that this code is going to be using, I don't know if you can see this well, but this code is going to be using the styling permission and it's going to use the all pages permission, meaning it's going to have access to our styling functions and our all page, and it's going to be accessible on every single page. So we're going to accept this. We're going to go, and we're in dark mode. Look at that. Look at that. And so now we're in dark mode. So we can see we've got our counter in nice, beautiful dark mode. We've got our manage and all this stuff all in dark mode as well. We can also go in, and if we don't want dark mode right now, we can also just disable it, right? And we can go back to light. But yeah, now we've got dark mode running. So that's pretty cool. The nice thing is that at no point did we ever give it access to our DOM, right? So this is running in WebAssembly. So it has no access to the DOM here, right? And so what I can show you is, and this is going to be a little bit outside of JavaScript because this is actually C code, right? So here's what the dark mode WASM module is looking like here, right? So we're going to go in, we're going to get this apply style, we're going to get this apply style function, we're going to get the has permission function, we're going to get our config, right? And we're going to do, hopefully this isn't too crazy, right? We're going to, here, let me toggle truncate lines. There we go. We're going to see, get this, check if we've got the disabled key. If the disabled key is true, then we're going to go and just not run it. If it is not true, then we're going to go to our body, we're going to go to our P and label and stuff like that, and we're going to apply these styles using basic query selectors, right? And the styles is just going to go and say like, hey, the background's going to be a light kind of dark color with a little tinge of blue, and the foreground is going to be kind of warmer, kind of yellowish color, right? So this is what our, let's say, our dark mode looks like, right? And so we have this here. Let's go back to our man, Mr. Malicious, and see what he's got here. So Mr. Malicious, he gave us this one nice message. Oh, I disabled it, remember? Yeah, I disabled it. So we can turn it back on. Yeah. How many of who wants dark mode on versus off? Raise your hand if you want dark mode on. Dark mode on. Dark mode on. Okay, I think we'll keep dark mode on. We'll keep dark mode on. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so there we go. So Mr. Malicious, he had his little nice message code here. It wasn't cool. It wasn't cool. So he came back again. He was like, hey, he's got another mod for us. So he's got this another nice message, So he's gonna help us out here and try to make things better, right? And so we're gonna install this, right? And so it's gonna give us this mod requires the following permissions. And this is gonna be messaging. So we're gonna say okay. And now let's go home. And if we go home, right? Why did messaging not work? Hey, give it a second. Wait, let's see. Here, let me.
Oh, is it because dark mode's on?
I hope not. I hope not.
It's just like black.
It might be. It might be. Wait. Let's see. There we go. Okay, yeah. So it was black text on black text. I didn't say the system was. It's actually interesting. So I think I know the reason why that is because the ordering at which these mods are applied. This is going to go first and add this message. Oh wait, no. Because I added dark mode first. Dark mode's going to go first, make everything dark, and do like the query selector and stuff like that. Then this is going to go and add a darkened thing here. Yes. So it's like, look at this, Mr. Malicious. He's actually being nice to us for once. You're an amazing person, and he's got some extra stuff for us. You should go to the manage page and give me all pages permission so I can let you know this message everywhere. That's interesting. You know, he brings a good point because, you know, if we go to our dark mode has this all pages permission, right? And what this allows dark mode to do is it runs everywhere. So maybe it's a good idea for us to go and give Mr. Malicious an all pages so he can give us this nice message everywhere. Who agrees? Who agrees? Should we give Mr. Malicious? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our private browser here. And let's go here and let's go and help our man out here. Install. There we go. So we have it here, and let's go to our manage. And so we've got these optional permissions here. And so we're going to go in and we're going to give him all pages. And let's see how he's going to help us out. What is our oh, no, he got us again. So wait, I thought we sandboxed it, guys. What happened? What happened? Well, let's look at what Mr. Malicious was doing here. So I showed you what dark mode was doing. But let me show you why the web is a very goofy platform. So let's go back to our C file. Let me show you this, what we've got going on here. So he's going to do what kind of makes sense here. He's going to have a set message function. Oh, let me turn off truncate lines again. We're going to have a set message, right? He's going to, but he's also going to check if he has permissions. What is he doing here? Well, he's got here, which is our message here, which is going to be, hey, let's go. You're an amazing person. You should let me have all these permissions. He's going to set that message. But then he's going to check if he has all permissions. And if he has all permissions, he's going to change the message. And the message is going to be an image. Now, here's the interesting thing. We have an image here, and it's like, well, how did he get us from running an image? Well, this image is going to try to load, and well, guess what happens when this image loads? Well, he's got JavaScript here. And so that's how he got us. That's how he got us. He put some JavaScript in the actual image tag there. So, you know, that's one of the interesting things that I kind of want to bring up here. Is that kind of going back. In general, one of the reasons why we don't want to really be running arbitrary code is because it really depends on what your sandbox, how you implemented that sandbox, right? Because you can't really assume that just because like, hey, we've got a sandbox that's nice and clean, that doesn't really mean that you're 100% safe there, right? So it's one of the things that I kind of wanted to show off is that there are many different, and this is one of the key issues with like the with keyword, right? Is that with keyword, yeah, in the regular kind of JavaScript sense, like, oh yeah, it's not going to do anything crazy. But when you go in and you see that actually the way that the DOM works and how references work in JavaScript and the web in general, there are a lot of ways that you can go and actually get arbitrary code running. And it's not a fun experience at all. So that was kind of its own thing. But one of the things is how many people here are C people? I don't think I see many C people here. Oh, we got some C people here. Okay, there we go. There we go. So why are we doing this in C? So that's one of the interesting things about WebAssembly is that really it is a binary. It's a binary format, right? Meaning that languages that actually go and compile down to binary targets are really what it's for. So we're talking about our Cs, our Zigs, our Rusts, things like that, right? So working in C is not necessarily fun for the web. So what if we want to have, you know, the same kind of sense of running things in WebAssembly, right? But we wanted to actually do it in JavaScript, right? That would be really cool if we could have a really nice safe eval that's running in WebAssembly. So this is where we actually come in and bring in our friend QuickJS. So here I'm going to go to our marketplace and we have here our quick test, right? And let's see. So if I install QuickTest, we're going to see it requires messaging. It's going to use optional styling and all pages, and it's got some configuration down here. Let's install this and see what it does for us. Boom. So we have QuickTest here. We're going to go home, and it's saying, oh, whoops, whoa, wait. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hello from QuickJS. Look at that. Look at that. So we got hello from QuickJS here. If we go to our manage here, we got some configurations we can change. We can say, hello, JS Chicago. Right, and then we can go and go back home, and it's hello JS Chicago. Look at that, right? QuickJS also it's looking to check for some optional permissions here. So let's give it the permissions to style our page, right? So if we give it permissions, it's going to do this little border box here, and we can change the color of the border box and stuff like that. And if we put it on all pages, then it's going to put the border box everywhere, and it's also going to change the color of our headers here as well, right? So it's going to do some interesting stuff. Let's see how this is implemented. Let's see. So if we go to our quick test, we've got our knit.js, right? And so this is something that's a lot more familiar. Look at this. Look at this. So what it's going to do is we're going to get our config. let's see if we can, it's going to check if it's enabled, because we can, of course, go back and set this to disabled, and then boom, it's all off, right? It's going to get the custom message. It's going to get the styles. It's going to check if we have messaging. If we do have messaging, we're going to set a message, and it's going to be the strong here. If we do have styling, we're going to apply styles here. And then if we do have all pages, then it's going to also say running on all pages, right? So this is a lot more close to what we're used to here. It's just regular old JavaScript, right? And so it's actually using the same functions that the C code had, but now it's actually being implemented for the JavaScript side. So I think this is pretty cool. So how much time are we looking at here? Actually, when did I start? Does anyone know when I started? Yep. Here. Well, what I wanted to do is I was going to see if y'all would like to implement a little mod here, and then I can deploy it, and y'all can actually use it live. So let's see. Does anyone have any ideas of what we should implement? Any ideas? Any ideas? Any hands? Anything? Oh, we got a hand back there. What are you thinking?
Something that changes the background color and also tries to steal a session token.
Oh, it also tries to steal a session token. Okay, let's do that. Well, the nice and interesting thing is, as I said, this sandbox is not fully secure, and so there are actually ways that we can go and steal a session token. So let's actually do that. First, I need to actually set a session token. Here, 1 second. Let's go and inspect. We're gonna go to our storage. We're then going to go to, here, let's go to our cookies, and let's see if we can add a new one. Let's see. Name is going to be secret. The value is going to be super secret value. The domain is going to be this one, path session. We're not going to turn on HTTP only. We're not going to turn on secure, none of that. Perfect. So we're going to do this. So we're going to have this secret here. All right, and let's implement this. So let's say this is going to be name. Anyone have a name? Say that again. We say the real the real Mr. Malicious. There we go. So the first thing we're going to need is a main.toml. This is just how we're going to configure our little app here. So our app is going to have the name, the real Mr. Malicious. Malicious. Is this how you spell malicious? I think so. Description. The description is equal to. We're gonna set a multi-line description. We're gonna say nothing suspicious here, right? Let's go and I actually kind of forget what else I need to put here. See for here, let's look at a quick test. What does that look like? Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna need an author. An author is going to be, let's say it is our friend Mr. Malicious. Right? And the type, we're gonna have a type. We're gonna make the type quick because we're gonna use QuickJS. Let's use we're not going to have any configurations, but we do need some permissions. So the permission that we're going to need is we only really need the messaging. And because we want to change the styles, we're also going to get the style permission as well, right? So it's going to check for, and here, let's set this up. Now let's go and make an init.js. So this is the entry point for our app. Let's see. And here I'm going to have this side by side so I can see kind of what it's looking like, what we're doing here. Perfect. Okay. So, and actually, wait, one change we have to make is this should not be optional. We need this. All right, so we're going to ask to make sure that we get this, right? And so let's go and say init.js. Perfect. And so we can kind of look at this here. We can check if we have styling. So let's check if we have styling. Boom. Now, if we do have styling, then we're going to go. And what background color did you want? Red. Let's make the background color a nice red. So we're gonna have a look at the body, and we're going to say background color is going to be red. Perfect. So we have styling. Let's also check since we need messaging. So we're going to say has messaging. And so now we want to steal this token now, right? And so what we can kind of look at is how we did arbitrary JavaScript before, because as I said, this is not a difficult thing to break out of. So let's say another nice message. Let's look at kind of what they set for their, here what I'll do is zoom this out a little bit, right? Is we really just get an image tag here. Let's see if we can pull this out, right? I'm gonna set this image tag. Boom. And let's close this off. So instead of going and getting the document and setting it like this, we can now just put any arbitrary JavaScript in here and it will run. Honestly, I do not know how to get a session, a cookie from JavaScript. Get document.cookie, get cookie in JS. It's document.cookie. Document.cookie. Yep, you are correct. You are correct. So we're going to say document. We're going to console.log. We're going to say document.cookie. Pre-append a semi. So let's here. We're just going to go real simple. Just say document.cookie and just see what this gives us, right? And so what I'm going to do is running this on PNPM. So we're just going to go and I'm going to restart it because it has to pull in these modules again. What we should see is we'll hopefully see is a 6 come up here, but it might not have. Let's see. Well, let's hope that worked out well enough. So if I go to localhost, there we go, the real Mr. Malicious. There we go. So nothing suspicious here, right? And so it's going to ask for messaging and styling. Here, let's open up that inspect elements here. We're going to go to our console, clear the filters, and let's install this and see what Mr. Malicious has got for us. All right, so there's no config here, but if we go home, then on load, we're going to get the, oh, did it give us the document cookie? I don't.
Did you lose it in your session or not?
Oh, wait, this is on localhost. Oh, yeah, I put that on my regular session. Well, actually, here, I can show you, because what I can do here, who uses fly.io here? Anyone use Fly? Anyone a Fly fan? Fly fans? No, it seems not. Fly's pretty cool. As I'm going to deploy this, and you can actually use this on your own devices and set your own cookies and see if it will do that really quickly. But here, while that is loading and we just wait for that to go, I will finish up here. So yeah, my name is Robert Ismo. I mainly do machine learning stuff, but currently I work for a nonprofit called Agency Economy. We help young people kind of reclaim ownership over the web to fight things like social media addiction and all that other stuff that's kind of plaguing the internet now that people are unsatisfied with. So if that's something that interests you, you know, we've got a little QR code you can scan here. And here, while we do that, let's see if it's building right now. Let's see. It's going to go and get our machines good, make sure that we are there. And let's see. Give it a second. Perfect. Okay. So now if I go over here to our marketplace, click marketplace. Oh, wait, this is our marketplace. Yep. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So now if we go and inspect our elements, we go to our console and we install here. We say install, and then we go over here and we go home. Oh, look at that. We've got, did it do it? I don't think it did it. Let's see. Do we still have that cookie here? Oh, wait, where do you see object? Oh, wait, no, I think that this is just WASM stuff. This is just WASM stuff. Here, let's see. Let's go to storage and just check it. Yeah, it should be a string. Let's see. Oh, wait, this is source. Storage, cookie. Oh, wait, the cookie's gone. Wait, here, we can just re-add it really quickly. Name, secret, value, super, secret, value. There we go. And wait. Oh, it just never added it in the first place. There we go. Secret. And then let's go to super secret value. And then enter. Does anyone know how these dev tools work? Oh wait, is it not automatically setting that? Secret, super secret value. Yeah, here, okay, here, yeah, let's do that. And then let's go in. Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Safari works. Crazy browser, honestly. But yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave this up. So yeah, any questions that anyone has? I guess yeah, anything like that? You got a question there? Go for it.
I'm wondering where like the permissioning is like were the permissions from WASM like built into WASM?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Here, so let me explain that. So WASM, the way it functions is that it works based on imports, exports, right? So basically, you are going to give it a module, right? So if you look at here, every single time we went and if we did the C version, right? So here, let's go to the C version because that kind of shows up a little bit better. Dark mode, right? So if we go here to the C version, we're going to end up with this function, this file here, which is entry.wasm. So this is a WASM module. And so the WASM module is going to take in imports, right? So just JavaScript functions that it is allowed to call from inside of itself. And then it can also do exports as well, right? So really what we're doing for permissions is that if it doesn't have the permissions, so we're going to give it every single function as an import, but if it does not have the permissions, we just give it a no op, right? But if it does have the permissions, then we're going to actually hand it a an actual function that can, do DOM manipulation and everything like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Any other question back there?
So it's like, let's say take a library that I don't know and I don't trust.
Yeah.
Does there have to be like a very clearly defined like function and return from that library, and that's like all that I can trust that I can use? Like, how does this?
So it really depends on a lot of different things, right? So like as I said, for example, we're using Quick here, QuickJS, right? V8 is a C++ open source project. Like there's actually a lot of things, but there's nothing that's fundamentally stopping you from just going and saying like, hey, I'm just going to go and do a WASM V8 implementation, right? The biggest issue is like the complexity of the project and everything that's kind of involved in getting something, because you've really got to think about WASM as being a machine, right? A machine target, right? And so just like porting, in certain cases, that's one of the reasons why things like Java was so big, right? Is that I could go on any machine that was running the JVM and you would be good to run your little Java binary wherever, right? JS, kind of a similar idea. If you have a browser, you can run JS, right? As long as it's compliant, right? So it's going to be the same type of concept with WASM, is that it's a porting process, right? Where like once it's ported, you can now run it in any browser because all of these browsers support WASM. But like actually getting it to the point of being a WASM project is a little bit involved, right? There's beyond just the simple input output regular import type. Like if you look at the C stuff here, right, it's kind of atrocious. You've got to do like these attributes, kind of get these env stuff, and the odd thing is you have to actually like handle the order in which things are given as imports. This is, I think, a little bit better in Rust. I know Rust is like the really big WASM language, so if something's written in Rust, you actually will probably have a better time. But there generally is a lot more work that's involved in going through that. Yeah.
It's funny you bring up Rust. I think I told you last week. So
Yeah.
I'm working on the Dioxys project.
Oh yeah.
And Dioxys, it actually assembles a WASM bundle to do it. And
Yeah.
so what you're loading in the browser is a large WASM bundle. What I didn't think, I think this is like, it's just important to mention, is that when you think you're writing something in Rust, you think it's automatically going to be super performant.
Oh,
But no, it's loading a massive bundle in the browser.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you might have some performance wins depending on what you're doing, but you still have to be really smart on what you're choosing it for.
Exactly.
That bundle ends up being pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it also creates SEO challenges, all sorts of other little issues that you may not think about because you're still thinking about in terms of like JavaScript or in terms of the language you're writing it in. And it really is neither of those things in practice. So it's kind of interesting. But Rust is kind of not with Dioxys. It's luckily still at RSX. It's called RSX, their front end language, because you're still just dealing with like objects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. Like the biggest issue that you're going to really see is that the actual moving, so WASM is like its own environment. So moving data between, JavaScript V8 engine land into the WebAssembly environment is actually an extremely expensive operation, right? So WASM, generally, WASM basically functions like, if you're familiar with the internals of V8, it's like you're running an automatic turbofan, right? So that's actually another key thing to understand, is that JavaScript is fast, right? Quote unquote fast. Like you can really say that once JavaScript it understands your symbols, it can like kind of look at your types. When we're looking at V8, V8 is one of the most optimized engines out there when it comes to, taking an interpreted language and making that extremely fast to work with, because it has a just-in-time compiler, right? And so what WASM is kind of doing is it's kind of skipping a lot of those like kind of steps that V8 uses to start optimizing your JavaScript, right? But it's not going to be like, if you have really well optimized JavaScript code that V8 can understand very quickly and isn't doing like type changing or anything like that, and you have like WASM, in most cases, I think this somewhat depends now recently because a few things have changed with WASM, but they would run at almost exactly the same speed, right? If V8 can turbofan and like actually get it to the max optimization, then they're going to run at essentially the same speed, right? But really, the expensive operation is moving that data between the boundaries of WASM to the actual DOM or the traditional JavaScript land, right? Yeah. Oh, another question? Yeah.
Yeah, let's say like I've got like a spinner component in JavaScript or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if that component is gonna like try to steal users' private data because it has access to, document.cookie or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Can I put that in a WebAssembly module and say only give it access to the body?
So that is a difficult. So actually, I would say no. Reason being, so this is actually a very big issue in WebAssembly right now. A lot of discussion is around this concept of giving WebAssembly DOM access. So one of the big things, I actually kind of showed an example of why you can't do that with the another nice message, right? So what I did was I gave it a very restricted DOM access, where it's like, hey, it's going to target this one p tag, and you can only do things with this one, and you can only add to this one p tag. Now, there was a part of that where I did kind of like make it insecure by default, because I used the inner HTML rather than text content, right? So of course, if you're actually doing this, you'd probably just like give it like text content instead to kind of add a little bit more there. But like in general, the odd thing is that you would have to worry about the fact that in general, HTML elements can run arbitrary JavaScript. In most cases, there are ways in which you can get a large amount of the HTML kind of specification to go into JavaScript land and just start executing stuff, right? It's one of the more difficult aspects with kind of doing this sandboxing, and it's why, depending on the use case, a lot of different companies have their own sandbox implementation. Figma has their sandbox implementation. Salesforce has a sandbox implementation. Like any type of place that does like plugins and stuff like that are going to implement sandboxing to a certain extent, because it is like a fairly difficult problem, especially in an environment like the web. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, question. Yeah.
From an isolation standpoint, how does this compare to something like web components?
I would say it's even more isolated than web component, right? So in general, if I'm remembering the web component kind of specification properly, web component is really going to place the like most of the scope there inside of a shadow DOM, right? It's going to kind of spin up a shadow DOM, and then that's where you're going to see execution happening. The most difficult aspect with like kind of isolated, like that level of isolation, is that it's still JavaScript that you're running at the end of the day, right? And so JavaScript, like browser-based JavaScript, is going to, you have APIs that you have access to that are fundamentally quite easy in most cases to pull yourself out of the let's say a safe environment, right? And there's so many safe eval systems, right? It's like, so of course you can go and use like proxies and with and all this other stuff to try to like build up these kind of different levels of safe eval, and you can also like kind of go in and whenever you do try to do like a traditional eval, like actually go in and like hack the source like as it's going and stuff like that. But like in general with WebAssembly, if I remember correctly, WebAssembly fundamentally like runs in a container separate from the entirety of the browser itself, like the web context of WebAssembly. Like WebAssembly just functions as a program. You can kind of think about it as a program completely separate of your browser that your browser can just kind of communicate with, right? And so the isolation level, if you don't give it the functions there, like as an import or like the shared memory or anything like that, that is all it has access to. Now, if you find some type of way of which you can jump out of that, then you probably have an amazing bug bounty on your hands, you know? Yeah. Yes, yes. Oh, yep, question. Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing is V8. The major aspect of V8 is the optimization stack, right? So V8 goes through. This might have changed recently. I haven't seen looked into V8 much recently, but it has like 4 levels of optimization, right? So you have like liftoff, or you have like regular, just kind of interpreted JS mode, which is basically all QuickJS is implementing. QuickJS is just trying to go and have the MDN specification or ECMAScript specification there, and it's going to implement it, and it's not going to do any type of optimization. V8's then going to go and do liftoff. It's going to do something in the middle. I forgot what it's called. Then it's going to do turbofan, which is like the full-on, just-in-time compiled, like just basically running a binary type thing. All of those, like this entire stack just doesn't exist in QuickJS, making it a much smaller project. And of course, V8 is a project that has to deal with the fact that it is trying to do a lot. Fundamentally, it's just a much larger and more widely used project. Like QuickJS is mainly about like, hey, we're trying to run this like on the edge or in an embedded system, so we've got to decrease the footprint as much as possible there. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Anything else? Yep. Yeah. Then I think we're good. I think we're good. Yes. Anytime.
And then last but certainly not least, we got Aaron.
There we go.
And then really quickly, I just want to make a announcement about like the last 2 meetups of the year. I can't believe that. November 11th, obviously that would be like normal. We'll announce the pre-print stuff today. But in December, we're gonna forego any kinds of talks. We're just gonna have like a Christmas party or holiday party, whatever. It's on December 7th, so it's nothing to do with any holidays. Just a fun party to hang out. We'll like do special catering. We'll like have a little bit more of a budget, so it'll be fun, and there will be like wintry decorations around. So just so you kind of know to expect that. But like first week of December, because I know everybody just gets busy with travel and holidays and whatnot. So just so you guys know. But yeah, that's it. And whenever you're ready, you should be all set. And if you just unmute yourself on your
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Take it away.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna give my talk. I know everybody wants to mingle and talk, so I'm gonna be really quick right here. So I think everybody has this $1 million idea that one wants to create. Who doesn't have one? And the question is always how you can do a prototype or an MVP, and then you start like adding more stuff and adding more stuff, and then you never post it, and then it's been 10 years and that project's still there. So what I'm gonna show you a little bit is how to develop this an MVP in React Native, and we're gonna go over it. A little bit about me. I have 10 years of experience, and I've been working as an independent contractor for different companies like IBM, Walmart, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Right now, I'm at IBM as a senior software engineer. My expertise goes over React and React Native, and most of the time, I also help with different community events. I co-host as a volunteer in Code and Coffee, and I also have to speak in Jalisco Talentland many times in Mexico, and collaborate around the Chicago tech community. So we're gonna work in a small MVP, show an API integration. So there is a very famous API integration called the movies API. So we're gonna get that movies API, and then after we're gonna show it so you can search, and then we'll have an easy Firebase authentication. So it will be very basic stuff. So you can, I'm gonna give you this in the GitHub, so you can use it as a boilerplate for any of your next projects, and then you can finally show your project as an MVP there. So I'm gonna give you a repo overview. So basically, every time that you're doing React Native, you want to have everything separated of what you really want to do, because everything in React Native needs to be reusable, and through the code needs to be separated where it is and what we can reuse every time, because we don't want to have repeated code every single time. So one of the most important things is the application itself. It's going to have the architecture and the navigation. And then the assets is going to be the images itself, or whatever asset you want to add, like fonts and stuff that it's not coding aspect, let's say. The components are the most important one. For example, here, since it's a movie, we need to create objects for that thing to happen. So I don't know if anybody has any idea what could be a component for a movie.
Reviews.
Yeah, that could be one. Yeah, okay. So here it's gonna be I was saying the movie card, or like the reviews, it can be also. The context is basically what's gonna be there, like what we are gonna call. Then the services, it's where we are gonna call the API. So basically calling this API and wrap it over and fetch it to the code. So here's our tech stack. We're gonna use the React Native, Firebase, Movies API, and React Navigation. We're gonna use Expo in React Native. Expo is this new platform that React Native just showed up that will let you develop through the phone and also scan your QR code and everything. It's very cool platform because you can have simulator and also your real device connected at the same time, since being necessary to deploy. So it's really good to have it always, I would say. So here we are going to clone the repo, do npx expo star, and then we are going to configure Firebase. So for these, normally here, we are going to go here. We are going to create the Firebase. Then okay. So we can create the Firebase, and it's gonna show you a little bit about this. And normally we will want to go to the web area, since this is a native app, but we need React components, so they will tell you to go to the web. And in the configuration, it will give you this code that basically this code is the thing that we are going to use to connect the Firebase to our code. So here we can go to the IDE, and in the IDE, we can see the Firebase config and how we want to call the Firebase. Basically, how we want to initialize the Firebase and then register to the user. Here, after, let's go back to the presentation. So then after, it goes to different things. So we already saw the Firebase, and then we can go to the login and sign up. That basically the login, as you can see, here's some logic about it and how we can handle if there is like an error under the password, or dispatch to the login and email and password, and then how it will navigate through the screens. So basically, here's something really important. So when you are building React Native, you need always things to get a nice style or a good view. So here it says itself, there is something called keyboard avoiding view. So if we don't add that, we essentially we cannot text over the input. We'll see the keyboard, but it will not show the input. It will just cover it. So we will have to be really tricky about how we want to add it and how we want to be under the style on it. Basically, basic stuff on how you don't have an account and sign up. And pretty much we can go into the auth state and how you want to replace the router in this part. This one is how you want to implement the movies. So first of all, it's an object. So the movies are always an object, and it will gonna be to the title, the year, the type, and the poster that it has. So we'll need to call everything that the movie has and everything that it's the movie detail. And then after, because we don't want to call all the movies at once, we need something to search, because if not, it's gonna cause like a big memory leak there or something there, because we are gonna call all these big API without any response after. So here is how we can assemble the search movie. The base URL, an API key. That's pretty much depends on which API you're using, if they have a key or not, but that really depends. The majority of those ones will have it. So this is one of the most important part. This is navigation flow. And in React Native, we need navigation flow, and it's how the application is gonna navigate through. First, we need the login, the sign up. So we need to unlock the login on the sign up anyway. So if you want to see it in a bigger way, yeah, we can see here the authentication. That's the login and sign up that was there. And then this is the home, and this is the movie itself. This is the only one that has the header shown, since this is the one that will have the go back button. And the other ones will not need to have the backbone, so we can just put it on false. And here's a little bit demo of the application. And here you can see the movies, and you can see the plot, and then come back, search another movie. And basically this is already like a boilerplate, so you can add any other functionalities or call any other API. So you can like redirect to that, use authentication, create a profile. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Here you can scan the QR code if you want like the boilerplate. And that's also my LinkedIn information. Does anybody has any questions?
How easily would you be able to swap out Firebase for something like Superbase?
So I'm not a fan of Superbase, to be honest with you. But like I know that so Firebase it has an easy configuration that Superbase it has. So but you can just change Firebase config and install use the.
Are you using, because you're using an app, are you using like Firebase's other features like notifications and stuff that kind of come out of the box?
So in this boilerplate, it's just the authentication and the register user. But since it's a boilerplate, it already has some of adaptation to that notification.